Have you ever wondered if mind control is real? From mysterious depictions in Hollywood movies to the intriguing possibilities explored by neuroscientists, the concept of mind control has fascinated humanity for decades. But what lies behind the curtain, science or fiction? In this captivating journey, we'll delve into the origins of mind control in popular culture, separating the exaggerated myths from actual scientific advancements. How do movies like Inception and stories of brainwashing influence our perception? And what does real-world science say about manipulating the human mind? We'll explore groundbreaking research in neuroscience, examine subtle yet powerful manipulation techniques used in advertising and politics, and uncover the psychological tools that shape decision-making. But that's not all. Ethical questions arise as emerging technologies, like brain-computer interfaces, hint at possibilities once thought impossible. Mind control might not be as dramatic as Hollywood suggests, but the power of influence is all around us. So, join us as we investigate the facts, debunk the myths, and discuss the profound implications for our society and individuality. Stay tuned, and let's unlock the mysteries of the human mind together. Let me know if you'd like any tweaks.
All right, diving into mind control today. And wow, you've really gone all out, haven't you? Notes, articles, even a whole video outline. You're serious about this.
Yeah.
It really gets you thinking, the idea that someone could just, I don't know, take over your thoughts. Creepy, but definitely fascinating.
Yeah, it definitely grabs your attention.
So is this all just sci-fi? Or could someone actually control your mind? I mean, how much of what we see in movies, like mind control stuff, is even remotely possible?
Well, I think it's interesting how our worries about mind control, they kind of show this deeper fear we all have about losing control, someone stealing our free will.
That's a good point. It's like this really basic fear of being completely taken over.
Exactly. So before we go full Hollywood on this, maybe we should lay down some basics first. Like what actually IS mind control? I mean, when we say mind control, we usually picture one person totally dominating another. Their thoughts, their actions, even their will. No freedom, just complete control.
Okay, yeah. But is complete control even possible? I mean, brains are super complicated, right? It's not like someone can just waltz in and take over all that stuff.
Well, that's where the science comes in. The brain processes information and it makes choices, but it's based on a bunch of things, like our internal stuff, her values, memories, personality, and then external stuff too, like what we see, hear, experience.
Right.
It's not as simple as flipping a switch, Someone can't just override everything. But that doesn't mean we're immune to influence completely. I mean, maybe full-blown mind control, like in the movies. That's unlikely. But our minds can be nudged, swayed, even in subtle ways.
So less about evil geniuses with mind rays and more about the sneaky ways our thoughts get shaped.
Exactly. Think of it like this. Our brains are constantly working, taking in info, making decisions. And sometimes someone can manipulate that information to push us towards certain choices.
I get it.
Yeah.
That probably happens way more than we realize, right?
Yeah.
Like with advertising, those jingles, the targeted ads, they're playing with our minds somehow.
Yeah. Bingo!
Yeah.
You got it. That's what they call social engineering, using psychology to influence people, their opinions, their actions. And it goes way beyond advertising, too. Look at political campaigns. They use language, images, all carefully chosen to get an emotional response to sway voters.
So social engineering is everywhere then.
Yeah.
But where's the line? I mean, is it that different from just giving advice or a good argument?
That's the million-dollar question. True persuasion, it's about giving info openly, letting someone decide for themselves. But social engineering, it's more like twisting things, exploiting weaknesses to get what you want, even if it's not good for the other person.
So basically taking advantage of people's biases or insecurities to get them to do what you want.
Exactly. And the scary part is, it works, especially if we don't see it coming.
That IS worrying. Speaking of worrying, we've got all these notes about misinformation and mind control, conspiracy theories, about mind-reading machines, brain implants. People are freaked out.
Oh, absolutely. And online, misinformation spreads like wildfire. That's why critical thinking is so important. You got to evaluate information, check sources, be aware of biases.
So don't just believe everything you see online. No kidding.
Right. Think about it. Where'd this information come from? What's the proof? Is there another side to the story? It's about using your brain, being a little skeptical.
Like building mental defenses against manipulation.
Exactly.
But those brain implants we mentioned, they seem like a slippery slope. I mean, what separates therapy from control, especially if those things end up in the wrong hands?
Yeah, that's a huge question, and it's what scientists and ethicists are really debating. Brain-computer interfaces, they have amazing potential. Imagine people with paralysis moving again, treating brain disorders, maybe even boosting brain power. But like any powerful tool, there's the risk of abuse.
So it's a race to make sure these technologies stay ethical before things go too far.
It is. And it's not just about stopping the bad guys. It's about making sure everyone benefits fairly. Who gets access? Will it be used for good or to create new problems?
Wow, this is heavy stuff. It sounds like we're walking into uncharted territory here.
We are, and it's crucial to have these conversations now before it's too late. We need guidelines, rules, to make sure the power of the human mind, well, stays in safe hands.
Wow, this is all fascinating.
Yeah.
And a little terrifying, honestly. It's like science fiction is becoming real right before our eyes.
It is. And that's why understanding this stuff, the science, the myths, the ethical questions, it's more important than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've done a good job of laying the groundwork here. We've seen how easily our minds can be swayed, even if those crazy Hollywood mind control scenarios aren't yet reality.
Mm-hmm.
But something tells me we're just scratching the surface here. What else is there to know about the ways we're influenced every day?
You know, it's funny. We always think of mind control as this big dramatic thing, like in the movies, you know?
Yeah.
But in real life, it's often way more subtle, almost invisible.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we're always getting hit with messages, information, but we don't see how it's affecting us. Like, we need some secret decoder to see all the hidden influences.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of decoders, maybe pop culture is a good place to start. You mentioned Inception and The Manchurian Candidate earlier. Those movies really play on that fear, right, of someone hijacking our brains.
Oh, yeah, they definitely got me thinking. But now that we're digging deeper, I'm wondering how much of that is just Hollywood, versus real possibilities?
That's a good question to ask. Those films, they're great stories, but they kind of stretch the truth, scientifically speaking. Instant hypnosis, mind-reading machines, that's all made up.
So more entertainment than science, then.
Exactly. They're fun to watch, but they don't show how the mind really works. Influencing someone, it's way more gradual, more complex than that.
Okay, so no instant mind control. Got it. So what are some real-world examples of this influence stuff? What should we be looking out for?
Well, advertising is a big one. Those guys are experts at making us want things, you know. They use all sorts of tricks, and we often don't even realize it.
I remember reading about targeted advertising in one of those articles. Is that what you mean?
That's a prime example. Targeted ads use what they know about us, our online stuff, to show us ads specifically for us. You know, ever notice how those ads seem to know exactly what you were just talking about or looking up?
Yeah, it's kind of creepy when you think about it, like how much do they know? But even besides that targeted stuff, aren't there other ways advertising messes with our minds?
For sure. Think about celebrity endorsements. We like those famous people, right? So when we see them using a product, we're more likely to want it too. It's like we want to be like them, you know?
That makes total sense. Like we're buying into their lifestyle, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then there's this thing called scarcity marketing. They make it seem like something is rare or about to run out, so you got to buy it quick. Like those limited time offers you see everywhere.
Oh, I fall for those all the time. I get that feeling of, like, I'm going to miss out if I don't buy it now.
That's exactly what they want you to think. That fear of missing out, it makes us act impulsively. And honestly, that's just the beginning when it comes to advertising tricks.
Okay, so advertising is definitely a big one. But what about political campaigns? We were talking about those before. How do they use social engineering to sway voters?
Political campaigns. They're really good at using words and images to, well, to make us feel things, to influence how we think about stuff. Like those campaign slogans are designed to hit our values, our hopes, our fears, you know?
Right, those slogans that get stuck in your head, even if you don't like the candidate.
Yeah, exactly. They often use really strong emotional language. It's like they're trying to bypass our logic and just get us to feel something. And it's not just the words, it's the whole package.
So it's like the words, the images, even how they act, right?
Right. Nonverbal stuff is huge in persuasion. Think about how a candidate might use their hands, their eyes, to emphasize a point or to seem trustworthy.
It's like they're projecting an image of confidence or leadership or whatever.
Exactly. And all that together, combined with social media and targeted messaging, it can have a huge impact on how people vote.
So it sounds like social engineering is everywhere then, not just in advertising or politics, but in all parts of life.
That's true, and that's why it's so important to be aware of these tactics, these little tricks they use. The more we know about them, the less likely we are to fall for them.
Yeah, but let's be real. Not everyone has the time to, analyze every message they see. Are there any easy signs we can look for? Like red flags that might mean someone's trying to manipulate us?
Absolutely. One common one is super emotional language or images, the kind that tries to skip over our logical brain and go straight for the feels.
Like those sad commercials they use for charities.
Exactly. Those images can be effective for good causes, but they can also be used to manipulate us, to
Yeah.
make us donate without really thinking it through.
So it's not about ignoring our feelings, but about being aware of how they can be used against us.
Exactly. Another thing to watch out for is oversimplification. When someone makes a complex issue seem super simple, like there's only one right answer.
Like those political ads that make the other candidate seem like pure evil with no nuance at all.
Exactly. They create this us versus them situation without acknowledging that there's a whole spectrum of views out there.
So if it sounds too good to be true or too simple to be real, that's probably a sign.
That's a good rule of thumb. Another thing is this appeal to authority. Just because someone important says something doesn't make it true.
Like those ads that say 9 out of 10 doctors recommend something.
Exactly. Always question where info comes from and look for proof. And remember, just because a lot of people believe something doesn't mean it's right. Groupthink is powerful, but it doesn't equal truth.
So it's like we need to balance being open to new ideas with being skeptical.
You got it. That's the whole point of critical thinking. It's about being curious, but also being careful, engaging with the world thoughtfully, questioning things, and making decisions based on evidence and reason.
Man, this is really eye-opening. I'm starting to see all these subtle influences everywhere, stuff I never noticed before.
That's the power of awareness. Once you start paying attention, you see it everywhere. But awareness is just the first step. The real challenge is using this knowledge to make better choices.
Right. It's not enough to just see these tactics. We have to actively resist them and make choices that line up with our own values, even when there's all this pressure to do something else.
Exactly. It's about taking back control of our minds, becoming more aware, more informed, more empowered in a world that's constantly trying to influence us.
I love that. Aware, informed, empowered. That's a great way to put it. But as interesting as all this real-world stuff is, I'm still thinking about those technologies we mentioned earlier, those brain-computer interfaces. It's like something out of sci-fi, but it's real, and it's happening now.
Yeah, those technologies are definitely pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible, and they raise some serious ethical questions that we need to deal with.
Well, I'm ready to dive in. What can you tell us about the potential benefits and risks of these technologies, and how they might change our understanding of mind control in the future? I mean, the idea that we could have tech that actually connects to our brains, it's kind of wild.
It is, isn't it? It's like, where's the line between science fiction and reality anymore? Those brain-computer interfaces, they're right on that edge.
And I'm still trying to grasp how it even works. Controlling things with your thoughts. It's like something out of a movie.
Yeah, it sounds pretty magical, huh? But it's actually based on some pretty amazing advances in neuroscience and engineering. Basically, these interfaces, they create a connection, a pathway between the brain and a computer. Imagine someone with a prosthetic limb controlling it with their mind, or someone who's lost their sight getting visual information fed directly into their brain. No eyes needed.
That's incredible. It's like unlocking a whole new level of human ability. But it also makes me think, what about the risks? Could someone hack into one of those brain interfaces or use it to control someone, make them do things?
Those are definitely big concerns. Researchers, ethicists, they're all thinking about this stuff. Any powerful tech, there's always the risk of misuse. The idea of someone hacking a brain implant, that's scary. Cybersecurity experts are working hard to make sure that doesn't happen.
It's like a race then, to develop these technologies responsibly before the wrong people get their hands on them.
Exactly. And it's not just about preventing bad stuff. It's about making sure it's used ethically, fairly. Who gets access to this tech? Is it going to be used to help people or to create new divides?
Those are some serious questions.
Yeah.
We need to be talking about this now, right? Before it's too late to change course.
I agree. We need to think long term, not just about the cool stuff we can do right now. And one of the biggest questions we got to ask is, what does it even mean to be human when tech can connect directly to our minds? Does it change what free will means? Consciousness? Who we are?
Wow, those are some deep thoughts. This whole deep dive, it's really made me realize how complicated this topic is. It's not just about the brain itself, it's about influence, ethics, technology, even what it means to be human.
Yeah, you're right on the money. It's a complex issue, and it needs a complex approach. We need scientists, ethicists, policymakers, everyone talking about this openly and honestly.
This has been quite a journey. We started by taking apart those Hollywood mind control myths, then looked at how influence works in real life, and now we're thinking about the future of brain-computer interfaces. It's been mind-blowing.
It has been a fascinating ride, for sure. And I hope it's given you some tools to think more critically about the world around you, to see the ways, both big and small, that our minds can be influenced.
I know I've learned a lot. I feel like I have a better understanding of how to navigate all the information out there and make choices that are truly my own. So as we wrap up our deep dive into mind control, I want to leave you with this. In a world where things are changing so fast, where what was once sci-fi is becoming real, what can you do, both on your own and with others, to make sure the power of the human mind is used for good? Thanks for listening, and keep those minds sharp.